Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture, I am going to continue with another part of The Nun's Priest's Tale by Geoffrey Chaucer, and this is part 8. Now let's start with these lines, and then there's the Old Testament, a manual. So the speaker introduces the Old Testament as an essential text filled with moral and spiritual lessons. The term manual suggests it is a guide for understanding life and spirituality. Well worth your study, see the book of Daniel. So the speaker emphasizes the importance of studying the Old Testament, specifically mentioning the book of Daniel, known for its vivid dreams and prophecies, urging readers to examine its teachings closely. Did Daniel think a dream was vanity? So this rhetorical question suggests that Daniel, a biblical figure who interpreted dreams, did not consider dreams to be meaningless. It sets the stage for the discussion about the significance of dreams. Read about Joseph too and you will see. So the speaker introduces Joseph, another biblical character who is famous for his ability to interpret dreams. This invites listeners to consider how dreams played a critical role in his life and prophetic abilities. That many dreams, I do not say that all. So the speaker qualifies their statement, suggesting that while many dreams have meaning, not every dream holds significance. This emphasizes a balanced view on the topic. Give cognizance of what is to befall. So the speaker asserts that certain dreams can reveal future events or insights. The use of cognizance implies a level of awareness and understanding that comes from dreams. Look at Lord Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Look. So the mention of Pharaoh introduces a well-known biblical figure whose story shows the power of dreams. The direct call to look suggests an imperative to pay attention to these important narratives. At what befell his butler and his cook. So the speaker references the butler and baker from the story of Joseph, who each had dreams that foretold their fates. This example exemplifies the real consequences that can arise from prophetic dreams. Did not their visions have a certain force? So this rhetorical question stresses the impact and significance of the dreams experienced by the butler and baker, implying that their visions reveal deeper truths about fate and destiny. But those who study history, of course. So the speaker acknowledges that historians recognize the implications of dreams throughout history, adding an academic validity to the exploration of dreams. Meet many dreams that set them wondering. So this line suggests that historians encountered many intriguing dreams that provoke curiosity, reinforcing the idea that dreams can serve as mysterious signals of what may happen. What about Croesus to the Lydian king? So the speaker introduces Croesus, a historically significant figure known for his wealth and his fate, to show another example of a dream with prophetic implications. Who dreamed that he was sitting in a tree. So this specific detail of Croesus' dream indicates a moment of apparent peace and safety, contrasting the ominous nature of its interpretation to come. Meaning he would be hanged. It had to be. So the conclusion of Croesus' dream reveals its dark foreboding, showing how dreams can portend danger. So the phrase "it had to be" implies an inevitability about the dream's interpretation, hinting that misinterpretation of dreams can lead to dire outcomes. Now here we see or take Andromache, great Hector's wife. So introduction of a significant character, Andromache, who represents loyalty, love and the human experience of premonitions concerning war, the day on which he was to lose his life. So here we see this line foreshadows tragedy, hinting at Hector's impending death, establishing a theme of fate and foreknowledge. She dreamed about the very night before. So dreams are portrayed as prophetic. Andromache's subconscious warns her of future events, showing belief in supernatural signs. and realize that if Hector went to war. So the realization emphasizes the burden of knowing one cannot change fate. It highlights the helplessness in accepting destiny. He would be lost that very day in battle. So directness of the prediction amplifies the impending doom, showcasing the seriousness of war and its consequences. She warned him, he dismissed it all as prattle. So Hector's dismissal reflects human folly, how people often ignore warnings, foreshadows tragic irony where pride leads to downfall, and sell it forth to fight, being self-will. Indicates Hector's choice, suggesting a critique of pride and determination. This self-will contrasts with Andromache's wisdom. And there he met Achilles and was killed. So the outcome of Hector's choices is stark. Achilles symbolizes inevitable fate in war, and Hector's meeting ends in tragedy. The tale is long and somewhat overdrawn. So the narrator's self-awareness about the narrative suggesting a meta-commentary on storytelling, he recognized the artifice of tale-telling. And anyhow, it's very nearly dawn. So marking the passage of time and suggesting a reassessment, dawn often symbolizes new beginnings, yet here carries a sense of finality. So let me say in very brief conclusion. So the narrator's intent to summarize reflects a desire for brevity amidst depth, reinforcing the complexity of the story being told. My dream undoubtedly foretells confusion. So, a realization about the uncertainty of dreams. Dreams are ambiguous, they can be clear warnings yet lead to confusion. It bodes me ill, I say, and furthermore. So, the personal connection with the dream serves to heighten the drama, revealing the narrator's vulnerability and belief in omens. Upon your laxatives I set no store. So humorous interjection introducing levity, it critiques those who rely on remedies, also symbolizing denial of reality. For they are venomous, I have suffered by them. So the laxatives symbolize the consequences of misguided actions. The suffering indicates a deeper truth about how people deal with fear. Often enough before an I defy them. So defines here is both humorous and tragic. It encapsulates humanity's struggle against fate and the cycle of belief and skepticism. Now let's talk of fun and stop all this. So a shift in tone suggesting a move away from serious matter to lighter, more enjoyable topics. This transition reflects the narrative style of the Canterbury Tales, where humor plays a vital role. Dear Madam, as I hope for heaven's bliss. So the speaker appeals to a woman, expressing a hope for divine favor. It elevates the tone to one of reverence, emphasizing admiration. Of one thing God has sent me plenteous grace suggests a sense of gratitude for divine gifts, particularly focusing on the joy that the woman brings him. This establishes her as a significant source of happiness. For when I see the beauty of your face, the focus is on physical beauty, implying that external appearance significantly impacts emotional and spiritual well being. That scarlet loveliness about your eyes, specifically in describing beauty. So there is a specificity. Scarlet evokes connotations of passion and desire, enhancing the sensuality of the moment. All thought of terror and confusion dies. Love is portrayed as a powerful antidote to fear and chaos. This line reveals how beauty and affection can provide solace and comfort. For it's as certain as the creed I know. So the speaker associates love with unwavering certainty, akin to religious belief. This emphasizes the importance of love in his life. Now here, mulier est hominis confusio. So a Latin phrase meaning woman is men's delight and all his bliss. It underscores the idea that women bring joy and complexity to men's lives. It is also somewhat paradoxical as it hints at confusion caused by love. A Latin tag, dear madam, meaning this. So the parenthesis introduces a level of playfulness, suggesting the speaker's desire to connect with the listener on an intellectual level. It also emphasizes the playful tone of his expression of love. Woman is men's delight and all his bliss, reiterates the previous sentiments. The idea that women embody joy, enhancing the admiration the speaker holds for the lady, suggesting a cultural view of women as source of happiness. For when at night I feel your feathery side. So the imagery of feathery side suggests tenderness and intimacy, creating a warm, affectionate picture of their relationship. Although perforce I cannot take a ride. A playful acknowledgement of restrictions, possibly suggesting physical limitations or societal constraints. The phrase sets up humor regarding intimacy. Because alas, our perch was made too narrow. So the narrow perch symbolizes the constraints of their environment or relationship. This humorously suggests they are physically confined, limiting physical expression of affection. Delight and solace fill me to the marrow. So the speaker expresses profound, deep seated joy and comfort derived from this relationship, suggesting emotional fulfillment at the core of his being. And I defy all visions and all dreams. So the final declaration encapsulates a triumph over doubt or despair. By prioritizing love, he dismisses the darker aspects of existence, emphasizing the power of love to conquer fears. Then with this video lecture ends here. Hope this video lecture will help you in your exams. Thank you.